Showtime! The Capital G Show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, doing another top 5 list. I guess you can call this once again the Yu-Gi-Oh hierarchy. I think Asian Eyes White Dragon did a discussion very similar to this, and this time I'm talking about the top 5 restricted cards that should not be. It's always been one of my pet peeves to keep cards on the banned and limited list when I don't feel that they need to be. And a lot of people will probably argue with me because I am crazy liberal when it comes to the banned and restricted list. I want like everything off of it and rarely anything added to it. Starting things off at number 5, we've got Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind. Alright, so Blackwings haven't been good in damn near 3 years, so this card is still restricted to 1 for what reason? I personally think that there are 2 major reasons that Gale got hit to begin with, and let me just say, Gale is not and was never a broken card. Number 1, it let Blackwings go into Dark Strike Fighter like stupidly easy. I mean, whether you searched it off of Shura, killing something from battle, or you just searched it from Whirlwind, which was also at 3 at the time, you know, and the deck could easily OTK, and then Dark Strike Fighter just made like the OTKs easier because a lot of times you only had to do like 5,000 damage and then just Dark Strike Fighter your whole field win. And then number 2, it just owned the fuck out of Stardust Dragon. Like, Stardust Dragon took such a hit in playability when Blackwings really burst onto the scene, and I don't really think that Konami thought it was in their best interest to pretty much have the face of synchro summoning constantly getting owned by this random Blackwing monster. So they were just like, alright, let's get rid of this little Blackwing motherfucker. You guys will still be good and you'll still play Blackwings. Number 4, Burial from a Different Dimension. Okay, so Burial from a Different Dimension is one of those cards that just screams like I'm way past my prime. Like Karl Malone with the Lakers past my prime. Like back in 2009, you had, you know, Necro Gardner was great, and Mizuki was still semi-limited, and Vayu and Sirocco plays were like really, really good. Fast forward 4 years, and none of those things are true now. So I know that everybody's probably thinking, well, if you had 3 Burials, that might be like a little OP and Dragon Rulers. But if that's the case, it's like, why aren't people running Burial from a Different Dimension and Dragons now? I mean, there's no reason to. Like, Dragons lose because your opponent has like a Ophion or a Jogan on the field and you can't get it off the board. You know, Dragons lose because your opponent has an Iron Wall or a Mind Drain and you can't do shit. So, you know, running Burials in your deck is like trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. Like, you never lose with Dragons because you run out of Dragons to summon. I look at Burial and I just think, how would we abuse this card? Like, I mean, Necro Gardner, like, that's pretty much the only option, and that would just be, like, annoying, but it would never be, like, overpowered if you banished all 3 of your Necros and then, like, put them back in your deck. Like, I don't think Burial should be limited at all. Number 3, TG Striker, and this is a card everybody agrees on. Alright, so every day of my life, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I eat breakfast, and then I really just sit down and think to myself, like, wow, TG Striker is still limited. Like, this is just one of the token Konami stupid ass banlist hits, and it's one of those ones where like I never really understood it. I mean, Striker was never broken in Tech Genesis, the deck that it was designed to be a part of. It was never broken in TG Agent, so why did Konami randomly see fit to hit the card? You know, and there's this like giant lie that everybody constantly says, like, oh my goodness, Capital G, like TG Agents were like the fucking Terroxer nuts in Japan, except according to Shriek and every other reliable source on the competitive OCG meta, like that was never the case. And I kept up with the OCG meta there. Like, TG Agents didn't win any major events there. They didn't win nationals in Japan. Like, everybody was playing the deck, but it wasn't any good, you know? It wasn't like Blackwings or Insectors where it was like everybody was playing it and it was like running shit. Number 2, the Transmigration Prophecy. Like, this is the one card on this list to this day I can never make any sense of. Like, it reminds me of the whole why wasn't Terrence Howard in Iron Man 2 thing. Like, you hear 5 different stories, so you never know which one to believe. Like, I've heard everything from, well, people used to endlessly search gadgets to stuff about infinite loops. And, I mean, to me, it's basically just a slower version of DD Crow. And I know that there are people out there saying, well, I don't want my opponent reusing Heavy Storm or Monster Bomb, but you don't have to fear those things. I mean, not only does your opponent have to have Transmigration Transmigration Prophecy after they've already used the power card, but they then have to redraw the power card. Like, fuck that. That is way too much work to try and use one card in one obscure situation. Like, for me, I'm not even going to do that. I've never seen anybody play this card remotely at a high level event, so I think Konami forgot about the card. Like, let's just be real, to keep it 100 with you. I think Konami completely forgot that Transmigration Prophecy is on here, and now they'll just be like, well, you know, everything about Prophecy is broken, so let's just keep this shit on there because it has the word Prophecy in the name. And that finally leads us to number one, a card that you guys almost certainly forgot even existed, because I know I did a couple of times. Ceasefire. And Ceasefire is, without a doubt, the simplest card up here to explain. Like, it's a burn card, but no competitive burn deck ever uses it. So, like Brad Pitt said in Moneyball, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, Ceasefire became bad for two reasons. Number one, they banned every good flip effect in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That didn't have the word morphing in it. And number two, like, this stupid game is so fast that flip effects are rarely ever good. I mean, you just don't have the time to actually set a monster, hope it lives, and then next turn, flip it and hope you actually get the effect. Like, that shit's not happening. I mean, that's why nobody runs flip effects, and they haven't ran them in like 2.5 years, because they're just not viable anymore. So when I look at Ceasefire, and it was like, yeah, back in the day it used to counter Fiber Jar and Magician of Faith and Cyber Jar and all that broke shit. It's like, what does it do now? And I'm a guy who loves Ceasefire. Like, it was one of the first Pharaoh's Servant cards that I pulled, and I looked at it and I read and I was like, huh. So what the hell am I supposed to do with this card? How does this help my Dragon Beatdown deck? You know, I don't understand why Ceasefire is still on here when every burn deck would just rather run Just Desserts. I just don't get it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this list. Let me know if there were some cards that I might have missed on here. Thank you for watching as always, and take care. Subscribing makes life happy.